Hieronymus Bosch, a late medieval Dutch painter, is one of the most enigmatic and visionary figures in the history of art. His works are filled with fantastical creatures, complex symbolism, and moral messages, embodying the anxieties, beliefs, and curiosities of his time. Bosch's art has been both revered and mystified by generations of art historians, theologians, and critics. His surreal and often nightmarish scenes of heaven, hell, and human folly offer an unparalleled glimpse into the late medieval imagination, making him a precursor to modern artistic movements such as surrealism and symbolism. This essay explores the art of Hieronymus Bosch, his influences, his themes, and his legacy, examining the key elements that make his work so enduringly fascinating. Life and historical context. Born around 1450 in 's Bosch, in the Duchy of Brabant, modern-day Netherlands, Hieronymus Bosch's real name was Jeroen Anthonissen van Aken. His family, which included several generations of painters, was well established in the region, and the town itself was a bustling commercial and religious center. The period in which Bosch lived and worked was one of significant transition in Europe. The late 15th and early 16th centuries saw the rise of humanism, the discovery of the New World, the invention of the printing press, and the early rumblings of the Protestant Reformation. It was also a time of great religious tension, with an intense focus on sin, judgment, and the afterlife. Bosch's work reflects this historical context, engaging deeply with the spiritual concerns of his time. His paintings often depict themes of morality, temptation, and the consequences of sin, while his fantastical creatures and dreamlike landscapes suggest an exploration of the subconscious long before the advent of psychoanalysis. Despite his close association with religious themes, Bosch's art is not straightforwardly didactic, rather, it invites viewers to contemplate the mysteries of existence and the dualities of human nature. Themes in Bosch's work. At the heart of Bosch's work are the themes of sin, judgment, and redemption. His most famous painting, The Garden of Earthly Delights, circa 1490 to 1510, exemplifies this focus. A large triptych, it presents a detailed panorama of human existence, from paradise to hell, with an overwhelming amount of symbolic detail in between. The left panel depicts the Garden of Eden, a place of innocence and beauty, with Adam and Eve before the fall. In contrast, the central panel shows a chaotic, hedonistic world where people engage in various acts of pleasure, hinting at the consequences of indulgence. The right panel is a terrifying vision of hell, filled with grotesque creatures and images of torment, a stark warning of the punishment awaiting sinners. The triptych format, with its division into 3 panels, was commonly used in altarpieces, suggesting that Bosch intended his works to be viewed in a religious context. However, his use of bizarre, often surreal imagery sets him apart from other religious painters of his time. Bosch's depiction of hell is particularly striking, filled with nightmarish figures, half human, half animal, that evoke fear and confusion. These fantastical creatures seem to embody the concept of sin itself, as though the moral failings of humans are reflected in the grotesque and unnatural forms that inhabit his paintings. Another significant theme in Bosch's work is the folly of mankind. In works such as The Ship of Fools, circa 1490 to 1500, Bosch satirizes human vice, portraying a group of people adrift on a boat, indulging in gluttony, vanity, and other sins. This image, based on the medieval allegory of the Ship of Fools, critiques human weakness and the tendency to ignore the consequences of immoral behavior. Bosch's use of humor and satire in such works distinguishes him from other moralistic painters, making his art both entertaining and unsettling. Bosch also explored the theme of temptation in many of his works, particularly in his depictions of the saints. In The Temptation of Saint Anthony, circa 1501, for example, Bosch portrays the saint surrounded by a bizarre array of temptations, including demonic figures, strange hybrid creatures, and scenes of worldly pleasure. The painting reflects both the external threats to the saint's virtue and the internal struggle to maintain faith in the face of temptation. Bosch's ability to blend the surreal with the sacred in these images creates a unique and haunting vision of spiritual struggle. Style and technique. Bosch's style is characterized by its intricate detail, vivid color palette, and imaginative use of space. His works often feature highly detailed, densely packed compositions, with a multitude of figures and scenes unfolding simultaneously. This complexity invites prolonged and careful viewing, as the observer can discover new details each time they engage with the painting. While Bosch's figures are not naturalistic in the way that, for example, the figures of the Italian Renaissance painters are, they are deeply expressive. His human figures often have exaggerated features, with elongated limbs or grotesque facial expressions, contributing to the surreal, otherworldly atmosphere of his works. Bosch also had a remarkable ability to create fantastical creatures, blending elements of humans, animals, and demons to form beings that seem both familiar and alien. In terms of technique, Bosch's paintings are notable for their precision and clarity. He worked primarily in oil paint, which allowed for the detailed rendering of textures and light. His color palette is vibrant, with rich greens, blues, and reds that heighten the dreamlike quality of his scenes. Bosch's landscapes, while often fantastical, also show an acute awareness of the natural world, with lush vegetation and detailed depictions of animals. Symbolism and interpretation. One of the most intriguing aspects of Bosch's art is its symbolism. His works are filled with symbols and allegories, many of which would have been recognizable to his contemporaries. For example, in the Garden of Earthly Delights, the fruit symbolizes sensual pleasure, while the fountain in the central panel may represent the source of life and divine wisdom. Bosch's use of animals is also highly symbolic. In many of his works, certain animals are associated with particular vices or virtues. For instance, the owl, which appears frequently in his paintings, often symbolizes wisdom or, conversely, evil and heresy. However, the exact meaning of many of Bosch's symbols remains unclear, even after centuries of scholarly analysis. Some art historians interpret his work as a direct reflection of medieval Christian theology, with the fantastical elements serving as a visual metaphor for spiritual truths. Others see Bosch's art as more secular, with the surreal and often humorous depictions of sin and folly functioning as a critique of contemporary society. Bosch's works thus remain open to multiple interpretations, with each viewer bringing their own perspective to the rich tapestry of imagery, legacy and influence. Hieronymus Bosch's influence on the art world cannot be overstated. His unique vision, blending the moral concerns of his time with a fantastical, almost proto-surrealist style, has inspired generations of artists. In the centuries following his death, Bosch's work was highly sought after by collectors, and his influence can be seen in the works of many later artists, including Pieter Bruegel the Elder, who carried on Bosch's tradition of using fantastical imagery to explore moral themes. The intricate symbolism and surreal imagery in Hieronymus Bosch's paintings allow for an array of interpretations, reflecting his deep engagement with the spiritual, moral, and social concerns of his time. Yet, his visionary style transcends the medieval era, resonating with modern audiences through its exploration of human nature and the complex interplay between good and evil. His ability to merge humor, horror, and beauty in a single composition is unparalleled, making his work a subject of fascination across generations. Bosch's lasting impact on both high art and popular culture speaks to the universal themes he addressed. From his detailed depictions of moral decay to his vivid, nightmarish visions of hell, Bosch explored humanity's relationship with sin, faith, and salvation. His vivid imagination, expressed through a unique blend of realism and fantasy, continues to inspire not only art historians but also contemporary artists, filmmakers, and writers. Whether viewed as a moralist, a satirist, or a proto-surrealist, Bosch remains a towering figure in the history of art, whose works provoke thought and elicit emotional responses from viewers of all eras. The enigmatic nature of Bosch's art, paired with its timeless relevance, ensures that he will continue to be a central figure in the study of medieval and early Renaissance art. His masterful ability to blend complex symbolism with imaginative visuals allows each generation to discover new meanings in his paintings, reinforcing his status as one of the most profound and inventive artists in Western art history.